I want to have a conversation about Sidney Crosby because there was this graphic I saw that in Crosby's prime and McDavid's prime, Crosby has the same exact stats that McDavid has through his prime so far. I know McDavid is the best offensive talent that ever graced planet Earth, but Sidney Crosby, personally, I think is top 5 and I think all time, and I think he's number 5 to be exact.
Who do you have ahead of him?
I have Gretzky, Lemieux, Gordie Howe, and Bobby Orr. That's not an order. I would have Bobby Orr 3, Gordie Howe 4.
I think that's fair. I mean, obviously Gretzky's number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm trying to think of other all time. I mean, Sidney Crosby is. I think now these are a little bit older, and you see Connor McDavid is kind of taking over as like the face of the league. I think he might be a little underappreciated now. I mean, he had 40 goals last year.
Yeah,
the dude's not slowing down. Sid could still play. You know, I remember his draft year. It was you could not escape the hype.
No,
you were probably. I was young when it happened, but you were like way too young to even.
I don't even remember
fathom it.
Yes,
but I remember. Yeah, it was a weird draft too because it was the lockout draft.
Okay.
So any team could have won the draft lottery. Really, any team had a chance. A lot of people think the NHL rigged it for Pittsburgh to win because they were like on the verge of leaving Pittsburgh. Like Mario Lemieux had bought the team and pretty much saved them. They needed the new arena really bad, and you get Crosby, you get the face of the league. I mean, Crosby's. I mean, when you look at top players of all time, you have to think like what they did on the ice and their impact they had on the game. I mean, everyone. The thing I like about hockey is there's no debate about who's number 1 of all time. It's Wayne Gretzky.
It's so nice.
Maybe one day a player will get into that conversation.
McDavid.
He's still got a long way to go, man.
I know.
I mean, he's great, but he's still got a long way to go. But
yeah, for sure.
Gordie Howe, the impact he had on the game, how he played, how long, he's just one of all-time greats. Bobby Orr, I think for his time, he was probably the defenseman ever. I think Nick Lidstrom belongs in that category as well for best pure defenseman of all time. I think Nick Lidstrom at least belongs in the top 10 list.
Dude, his run within a 12
he won 8 Norris trophies.
Nuts.
I think Nick Lidstrom might be like the best pure defensive player ever in NHL history. Like, period.
I'll listen to that. I like that. I like that take a lot. And there's still other guys, like you have Ray Bourque in there, but then like outside of defensemen too, like somebody brought up Dominic Hasek could be number 5 all time, and like
goalies, I don't know.
I don't like including goalies into the conversation.
I wouldn't put a goalie. I would separate goalies from that conversation. I mean, it's hard to argue with putting Sidney Crosby in the top 5. I mean, with the career he's had, he's super consistent. I mean, obviously he's not putting up the numbers he did when he was like in his early 20s.
Yeah.
I mean, he's closer to 40 now. But, I don't have a problem with him being in the top 5. I think that list is solid.
Real quick before we hop into something else, I just want to read these numbers. So this is an 82-game era adjusted scoring pace through their first 9 NHL seasons. So Sidney Crosby, 1,134 points. Connor McDavid, 1,131 points, which is nuts. I found that completely mind-boggling.
Well, Sidney Crosby, his first few years in the league, he was insane. He didn't win Rookie of the Year, right?
It was Ovi, right?
Because Ovi had an even crazier season.
Didn't he have 50-plus goals?
Yeah, that's why he won, because he scored 50 goals. Mm-hmm. They both had, Crosby had an absurd amount of assists, but, Ovi won because he had more goals. But that rivalry back in the day, the Ovi-Sidney Crosby games, those were must-watch games. They were all nationally televised. I remember they would hype it up, especially when they would play in the playoffs. Sidney Crosby usually won most of the time, but just to see those two, I think the one time they both had a hat trick in the same game.
That's sick.
If you ask either one of them, they said there was never really anything there. It was just more of a media thing. But I mean, those two players are going to be tied together forever. Two players that were hyped to insanity coming out of the draft, and one is arguably the best goal scorer of all time, and then the other one is probably the most consistent player of all time.
If you include Sidney Crosby in the top 5 discussion, I think you should at least entertain the Ovechkin one.
Yeah, totally. I think Ovechkin belongs in that conversation as well. I think the top 4 are pretty rock solid for now. 5 is where I think the debate might be able to start.
I honestly completely agree with that. And even if you make a debate for Ovechkin, Crosby, Bork, Nick Lindstrom, and the list goes on. I'm probably forgetting a few all-time greats, but like you can have anybody from like 5 to 10, 11, and it can be interchangeable, even probably past 11 or 12. But just a discussion, like you get the 5, and it's like you can go this player. Oh, somebody else has a different player, and it just goes on and on and on. So I honestly find that that's the one thing too about like with all-time greats with the NHL compared to other sports. Like I think the NBA is kind of interchangeable.
It's ridiculous. There's two guys that I work with. Literally every week they argue about Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Like, guys, who gives a fuck? And I just want to preface this. These rankings literally do not matter. They do not matter. We have the Hall of Fame for a reason. In the Hall of Fame, they don't rank players.
Exactly.
If you have an exceptional career where your impact on the ice and to the entire game, elevated it to a different status, you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think ranking players based on numbers, I mean, it's fun for fans, but at the end of the day, it's literally meaningless.
The fact that there's some people that take that shit so seriously and is nuts.
I'm sure friendships have ended over stuff like that. I mean, there's intense debate. I think the worst one's probably with the NBA with Michael Jordan and LeBron. The NFL, it's getting pretty, like, it can be pretty bad depending who you're talking to about best player of all time.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think it is Tom Brady, though.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
But
Patrick Mahomes will be number 1 by that.
I just appreciate that the hockey community doesn't have these kind of debates because they're pointless.
They're all
the hockey also has an undisputed GOAT, though. So.
I mean, the NHL also, like, you have the top 4, like you said, undisputed. But after that, even top 5, it's like you get to that 5th spot, like I said, like no NHL fan or hockey fan
There's no definitive answer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody knows when they make this argument. It's like you can have one player. Every other sport, though, go fuck yourself if they don't say the player you agree with.
I mean, I think a lot of people will even agree that even if Ovechkin doesn't beat Wayne Gretzky's goal-scoring record, he's still the best goal scorer of all time.
He is.
Because that dude, I think that's literally the only reason he's playing still is to break that record because in games where he didn't think he was going to score, he didn't even look like he was there.
He just...
Especially in the playoffs, like, man was like, you know what? Cool, we made it. I just got to score like 40 goals. And
he's like, fuck the playoffs, man.
Playoff goals don't count.
I mean, that's a good point.
He's got his cup. He's got his legacy. The only thing he's playing for now is to break Wayne Gretzky's record. Which, all right. You know what? I respect it. Thank you guys so much for staying to the end of the video. We really appreciate you watching all the way to the end. If you enjoy our content, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Drop a like if you enjoyed it. If you want to keep this conversation going, be sure to check out our Discord. The link will be in the description below. Very active. We're trying to build an active community there. Talk hockey 24/7. Also check out our Twitter, Instagram, and TikToks. The links will be down below in the description. Thank you guys for watching.